Welcome to Positive Punishment or Method 2. In this video, we will be going over positive punishment or the adding of an aversive stimuli to reduce a behavior. And we will be going over the steps of punishment, what an aversive stimulus is, the types of it, examples of implementation, factors that can influence punishment, and problems with positive punishment. So here are the steps of positive punishment. There's the occurrence of behavior followed immediately with a consequence, or as immediately as we can. And then the behavior becomes less likely to occur in the future. So it decreases the future probability of the behavior. So in the present, behavior is followed by consequence. In the future, typically the behavior will be less likely to occur. So remember, this has to be adverse to the organism. So if it's not, say like, if you think a cat would be adverse to water being sprayed in its face, and it's not, so you spray water in their face and they kind of like it. This is not aversive, so it's not punishment. And the punishment should be used seldomly because there is a lot of potential baggage and unintended effects that it can have. And here are some types of adverse stimuli. There's the unconditioned stimulus, which is unlearned and connected to biology and survival. So there's a biological importance to this, and there's no conditioning to be effective, such as a loud noise. We are just naturally conditioned that loud noises are dangerous. So we have the startle effect, right? And an aversive unconditioned stimulus would be typically painful or extreme, And a conditioned aversive is stimulus that is learned. So it's usually paired with an unconditioned stimuli, and that requires conditioning. So things such as reprimand, saying no to a child, treats, warnings, disapproval, these are all things that some people are typically adverse to. And so here are some examples of implementation, but first we have to note that these procedures require physical manipulation of the behavior. So we must be prepared to deal with any type of restraint, make sure physical restraint isn't reinforcing to the object or organism, and make sure that no one is hurt because that is an ethical issue. So some types of overcorrection are positive practice, which is making someone practice and engage in the adverse behavior again and again. So if some kid is doing a puzzle, right, with shapes and they get it wrong, you can make them practice putting the correct shape in the hole again and again. And there's restitution, making the environment better than it was before. So if a kid makes a mess on the table, they will clean the entire table and not just the mess they made, right? And then there's the contingent exercise on the behavior. So if a child spills the juice, cleaning up the juice would be the contingent exercise. And then guided compliance, holding a kid's hand to pick up an item if they drop it, teaching them how to do it. And then there's physical restraint. So for example, a monkey leash, restraining a child from running into the streets. And some factors that can influence positive punishment can be intensity. So typically you want to implement it as strong as you can without it being terribly extreme. So you don't have to do it again, because if you repeat it again and again, it can become abusive. And there's the immediacy, and you want to have it as immediate after a behavior as you can to have the most effect. There's frequency and contingency, abolishing operations. So you must have the availability of an alternative behavior. It has to be not paired with a reinforcer. So you want to combine it with extinction because, like I said, you can be reinforcing to a behavior that you're trying to decrease. So like say a dog is barking, right? And you just going and giving them attention while you're telling them to stop barking can become reinforcing. And individual differences has to be taken note of. Like I said, because if it's not aversive, it's not punishment. And if the organism or subject is not reacting to the aversive stimulus, you have to be ready to abandon the punishment procedure because, like it's like number one said, it can become abusive. And if the behavior is not weakened, it is not punishment. Some problems with positive punishment, on the other hand, is that aversive effects often elicit undesired behaviors. So, emotion actions, aggression, incompatible behavior, and learned helplessness. And a person who is punishing can become conditioned as a stimulus, and it can model the behavior to the organism. And then there's ethical issues that we have to take note of. And you have to learn that there are less restrictive, and then there's problematic threatening that we have to take note of and not use. We must avoid injuries, and our punishment should be less harmful than the target behavior. There should be written guidelines and training if you are making someone else carry out this adverse stimulus punishment. And if the punishment is ineffective, you must be able to just abandon it because that is just the right thing to do. You don't want to keep adding an aversive stimulus to an organism if it doesn't work, And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time.